Welcome to Shardcast, the Brandon Sanderson podcast. We're a bunch of mega fans giving you the news, discussion, and of course, a whole lot of opinions on Brandon's works and the Cosmere. I'm Eric, and joining me is Ian.
Hey, I'm WeiryWriter.
Also joining me is Evgeni.
I couldn't come up with a joke this time, but I'm Argent.
Great. And also joining us is our newly spiked Inquisitor. Spiked means we staffed her. Is Grace.
Yes, it is a shame this isn't a video podcast where the listeners could see the wonderful new spikes in my eyes. I am GatorGirl on the forums.
And I'm Chaos. Yes. I like to imagine when we do a video podcast, we're just going to all put, we're going to be blind. We're not going to be able to look at our podcast notes. We'll just have like silver discs on our eyes. So we're all Inquisitors, actually. The video podcast will happen later summer. I'm moving. I don't want to deal with editing videos. So, today we are going to talk about Odium. But first,
AKA Feather's boyfriend.
Yes.
One of her many boyfriends.
Alex is not here today, but she does have a crush on Odium, and it is important for us to mention that on air. So, very important. But first, there is some news that will not be timely by the time this airs, but whatever. There are a crapload of t-shirts out on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
Of Brandon. From Brandon. Yes, they're obviously...
Yeah, these are official t-shirts.
Amazon is a company, guys. Did you know that? They sell
Did
t-shirts.
you know you can buy stuff off of Amazon?
Good job. It's a great start.
Great start. I'm a great host. Yes, Brandon t-shirts are on Amazon. There are new designs, new cuts, women's cuts, kids' cuts, small sizes, big sizes.
And lots of colors.
And there are more designs coming in the future.
Oh, yeah.
Including one by Ben McSweeney. At least one.
Ooh.
Like the one I'm wearing? My Vin shirt?
It's a good shirt.
It's a good shirt. It's very comfy. Great. So, Odium. First of all, there are Oathbringer spoilers in this one. So, you should definitely... It's very important that you read Oathbringer before you listen to this podcast. Very important.
Unless you want to be spoiled.
That's true. Hell.
Yes. Let's start by talking about Rayse, the vessel of Odium, as we know. And Ian, why don't you read this first quote?
So this is from the Chapter 18 epigraph, which is from Hoid's letter to Frost.
In Way of Kings.
Rayse, on the other hand, was among the most loathsome, crafty, and dangerous individuals I had ever met.
Great.
What a lovely person.
Mm-hmm.
I feel for him.
Hoid is not the most unbiased of people when it comes to Rayse.
He's a little biased, but it seems justified.
And it's not like Hoid himself isn't crafty and dangerous.
Yes.
Well, that is certainly true.
Takes one to know one.
Yeah. So, we wanted to talk about Odium's overall plan and what he's done so far in the Cosmere, because he's kind of like our big Cosmere villain so far, really.
We think.
So
who knows by the time we get to Sci-Fi Mistborn.
Well, that's true, because the Stormlight will be done, so presumably the Odium stuff will be done by then, right? But so far, Odium is our big bad, right?
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, Evgeni, do you want to tell us about what Odium's been up to?
He's been hanging out in Starbucks. No.
In Silverlight, just having a drink.
Well, I was gonna say Starbucks, but sure, silver bucks.
Silver bucks. That sounds like the currency they use at Silverlight rather than Silverlight Starbucks.
Right. Either that or brain bucks, because it's in the cognitive realm, right?
Hey.
Anyway, Odium. So from what we've seen from him, pretty early on after the shattering of Adonalsium, Rayse and his newly acquired shard of Odium just went on a killing spree. He decided that he wants to be top dog in the Cosmere, and there were only so many individuals in the entire Cosmere who could match his power, the other vessels, the other shards, and so he decided to get rid of him and not have anyone contest him. And so he went after ambition, because he was, if not afraid, then at least apprehensive of a shard whose intent was ambition, somebody who would potentially be a contestant for the position of a top dog. Yeah,
a rival to power.
Yep.
Yes.
And so he didn't quite succeed in getting rid of ambition. Gravely wounded the shard and its vessel Yulida, and then went on and went after Dominion and Devotion on the world of Cell, the world
didn't
where
he get Dominion and Devotion first because he couldn't find ambition at first?
I'm pretty sure he was on his way to Splinter Ambition and was like, "Oh, I might as well stop here and sell while I'm searching."
My impression was that he went after ambition, found ambition, wounded ambition, but couldn't finish them off.
See,
because ambition escaped, and then
I don't think he found ambition at all before he went to Devotion and Dominion.
Oh no, you're right. Yeah, you're right.
So the quote is, which is hilarious because you asked it, Evgeni.
Yeah, I just went back. I just remembered my
and it
question.
Says, Brandon says he went after ambition first, but didn't find ambition until after going after Devotion and Dominion. But ambition was number 1 on his hit list.
Right. In my defense, when you get as many WAPs as I do, it's difficult to keep track of all of them.
Oh yeah,
Talk about a humble brag.
You're the most humble person in the Cosmere.
Indeed, I am.
Yes.
Shard of Humility. That's me.
Humility would be an interesting shard, but anyway, let's not get off top.
Yeah, it would.
Anyway, so he splinters Dominion. He wants to go after ambition, fails to find ambition, goes after Dominion and Devotion, presumably in part because they are breaking this agreement that all the shards had, that they would go their separate ways, and also presumably because Dominion, at least, is a dangerous shard to leave around.
Sounds like it wants to control things.
A little bit, yeah. Dominate, you might say.
There was a quote that suggested that Odium went after Devotion or shards, some shards, because they broke that pact.
Mm-hmm.
And so he splinters those, and we're going to talk about the interesting things that happened there. Yeah, a little later. Goes back, finds ambition. This time, gravely wounds ambition. Essentially, leaves them to die. And then falls into a trap.
It's a trap!
It's a trap! The specifics of which we don't know, but Tanavast, the vessel of honor, the Shard of Honor, managed to somehow trick Odium into presumably investing himself somewhere in the greater Roshar, the Rosharan system, which effectively trapped Odium in that system.
Well, we're going to talk about the details of that. I don't know if certainly being invested is a reason why it's harder to leave, for sure.
Sure.
But I don't know if that's the main reason. But
there could be more. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
But Tanavast was responsible.
Yep. And so thus far, Odium hasn't gone on killing more shards, although did kill Honor there, and really wants to kill Cultivation, and presumably would continue after that.
So he was stopped at a quadra kill.
Yeah, just
that
wrecking.
we know of.
That we know of, yes. Yes, it is entirely possible that Odium has splintered more shards that we just don't know about.
Yeah, there aren't any quotes to suggest that. Brandon was pretty close on 4, but it is possible. But we don't have any evidence to support that.
I think there was when we only knew about the 3, he was like, he splintered at least one. That you don't know.
Yeah.
There were other ones when I was doing research that was it seemed pretty clear that there were 4, but again, there could be more.
Though from the Arcanum Unbounded essays from Chris, she does give a pretty clear number of 4.
Yeah, so I think it's pretty safe to say 4. I mean, I wouldn't be upset if it happens to be another one, but.
In which Eric confirms he's okay with genocide.
It would not be genocide.
It would be shardcide.
Killing shards, okay?
It would be deicide. Killing of God.
It would be deicide.
Those gods were jerks. This is fine.
They're already murderers. They killed ad nauseum.
Well, that is certainly true. Grace, why don't you read another epigraph from a letter, this one from Frost, talking about what odium is.
So this is the Words of Radiance, chapter 71 epigraph. He bears the weight of God's own divine hatred, separated from the virtues that gave it context. He is what we made him to be, old friend, and that is what he, unfortunately, wished to become.
Which is
Good
a
job,
great
you guys.
description.
Good job.
Yep.
So, it seems like Frost kind of blames themselves for what happens for what Odium is doing.
Yeah, I think in Frost's mind, like, they screwed up in doing what they did. Or it did not go according to his plan.
Unless
their plan was.
It was essentially inevitable that whoever picks up the Shard of Odium would be led to do things like that. Although the fact that Rayse was a loathsome, crafty, and dangerous individual certainly did not help the case.
Or, he wanted to be called Passion, and they called him Odium instead. Maybe he was just upset that they were being mean and calling him names he didn't like.
We're definitely going to talk about that a lot in this podcast.
Yes.
Odium was just bullied by the other shards.
It's true. Odium did nothing wrong, 2018.
It's important to note that Frost is associated with the 17th shard. Like, he might be the leader, we don't quite know for sure. And their whole thing is, like, do not interfere. Like, shards coming into conflict is bad news. Like, we don't want that. So I could see him thinking, like, oh, splitting up the shards was like, no, well, never mind. The shards were split up for a reason, I suppose.
Yeah.
So I guess I just argued against myself.
Yes.
You played yourself. Good job.
One thing I wanted to bring up that some people ask is, well, I mean, if Odium wanted to be top dog, why wouldn't he take those shards? And we have many quotes that suggest Odium likes the shard that he has, because, as we know, when you pick up a shard, that influences you. And Rayse likes this arrangement with Odium, and if he picked up another shard, as we kind of see with Harmony, it changes how you think about things, even if you do have multiple shards. And so he thinks, oh, well, if I picked up these other shards, then I wouldn't be me anymore, and I want to rule. So that's why he's breaking these other shards and splintering them so that he will be in charge and not this other amalgam of Odium plus something else.
Yeah.
And we had a tangentially related wob come from Jordan Khan, where somebody asked whether ambition and unity would be considered opposites.
I think you mean autonomy, not ambition.
That is 100% what I said. You can go back to the audio or listen to it. I said autonomy.
Yes. Yes. We'll edit this in post, Cat.
Whether autonomy and unity would be considered opposites. And Brandon went on a small tangent there talking about how one way to be autonomous is to unite everything, right? And that's how you don't have any external influences. Another one is to just avoid everyone and everything else. And it is in that conversation that he either outright said or implied that autonomy thinks about shards similarly to how Odium does, in the sense that autonomy wouldn't ally themselves or pick up a hypothetical shard of unity, because that would change who autonomy is.
Mm-hmm.
And they are not about that life.
Yeah. Just as a note, unity is not necessarily a shard, and we're gonna have a podcast about that. And I don't agree with the premise of that question at all. Just to be clear. Very important.
Unity is the survival shard.
No, God. I'm so triggered. Maybe people on the podcast don't know, but I got the quote that said, "Hey, there's a shard who just wants to survive," and I coined that the survival shard. But then people
to hide and survive.
To hide and
Yes,
survive.
hide.
And like I'm misquoting my own thing. It's great. Thanks, Ian.
Welcome to my life.
It's why I'm here.
It's pretty much. I don't remember what I did like 2 days ago, so. But then people started calling that shard survival, and I would just make a desperate plea to everyone. There is not a shard with the name survival. We know it is only tangentially related to what the shard's name actually is, but it is hiding and not influencing what's currently going on.
Yeah,
it's
hiding because it knows what is going on and doesn't want to die.
Is scared of Odium, and I think most people should be scared of Odium.
What a wise shard.
Yes, incredibly wise.
Yes. Which they're making a joke, listeners, that they think the shard could be called wisdom, which is a good theory, but that was a joke. Haha, hilarious.
It's also not the topic of this Shardcast.
No, not at all. Not at all. But it was kind of related to Odium.
Welcome to Tangential Cast.
Welcome to Survival Cast. Welcome to Intent Cast, where we call shards by the wrong intents.
Is that a capital I
that this
intent,
is about
Eric?
Odium.
Perfect. This has you on the podcast, Ian. Hey.
Zing.
We're going to talk about it. But first, we got to talk about Odium splintering shards. And
maybe talk about splintering as a process in general, right?
Yeah.
Because that's complicated.
Yes.
There's a lot of stuff going on here.
Yes. So first of all, I think we should talk a little bit about splintering.
Yes.
Because splinters can come from two distinct processes.
Yes.
A shard can splinter off a piece of their power willingly to create a splinter, and then they can be murdered and smashed into pieces, which is called splintering.
An example of the first is endowment, splintering off the divine breaths that reattach the cognitive shadows of some recently deceased people on Nalthis back to their bodies, thereby turning them into returned.
Yes.
And another example is even Honor just creating Honor Spren, right? Which definitely happened before Honor died, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So splinters can exist without the shard being splintered.
Yes.
And an example of the second one would be something like
the Sions and the Skazi.
Yeah, I was going to say possibly the Sions, but I don't know if there were any Sions prior.
They were not. Their creation is contemporaneous with the arrival of Odium.
Correct.
Good to know.
Says the person with the name of a Sion.
Yes. And we do get a quote in the first letter, the letter Hoyd wrote, that just so we're all on the same page, that in case you have turned a blind eye to that disaster, know that Aona and Skay are both dead, and that which they held has been splintered, presumably to prevent anyone from rising up to challenge Rayse. So that fits with just what we said, of course. That he doesn't want other shards to be around.
Though it is also important to know. I say that a lot, but there are a lot of things that are important to know.
Many things with Odium are important to note.
Yes. That splintering is not necessarily permanent. It can be reversed.
Yes, that is true.
Yes.
We do have a quote on that. Indeed.
So, why don't we then talk about the second method, the violent, forceful splintering of shards, which is what Odium is doing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So here's my kind of understanding / take on the whole process, right? If you are a shard, say you're Odium, and you want to get rid of a rival, you are interested in a couple of things. You are interested in making sure that the vessel of the rival shard, I wonder if there's a shard whose intent is rivalry. You want to make sure that the intent of the rival shard, or the vessel, is not around anymore to cause problems for you. So you want to make sure that the mind, the guiding force behind the force, the shard, the power is gone.
Different forces there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you also want to make sure that the power that's left after you've gotten rid of the mind cannot be picked up by anyone else who could then become a problem for you. And so that's how I think about splintering. There's a cognitive part where you get rid of the person, the vessel, the mind, and there's a spiritual part where you do something to the power or with the power to make sure that nobody else picks it up.
Basically, it's breaking it down into smaller pieces, so it's not super easy just to like pick it all up at once. Like,
is one way to do that.
Yeah.
The other way is what happened on Cell. Is that what you're going towards?
Not necessarily, but yes, that's okay. We can talk about that.
Why don't you just talk about that? Because this has been haunting you for a while.
It has been haunting me.
Cell.
Yes,
Cell has been haunting you in particular.
Without repeating the story that I told in a previous Shardcast about the ghostly wob. The short version of it is that when Odium went on Cell to splinter Aona and Skay, also known as Devotion and Dominion, respectively, he was not experienced in splintering shards. He didn't really know what he was doing. He knew his goals. He wanted to get rid of the mind. He wanted to get rid of the power, but didn't know exactly how to do that. And so his solution in there was to, yes, get rid of the minds, splinter the minds, kill the vessels, essentially. And then somehow in a colossal feat of strength is what I imagine it to be, shove the power of those two shards into the cognitive realm of Cell, where the friction, the natural friction between these two powers would just create a destructive storm of investiture that would, he hoped, make it impossible for anyone else to pick up that power.
Or even to just investiture gain sentience, and he was also hoping, I believe, that would prevent that from happening as well.
Yeah.
Sure.
That sounds right.
Yes.
So basically, shards usually exist primarily in the spiritual realm. So,
their investiture, yes. They transcend all three, right? So it's weird, but yes.
the bulk of their power resides in the spiritual realm.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what Odium did was take that power that was in the spiritual realm and shift it over to the cognitive realm, which
is actually insane.
Far-reaching effects on the magic of Cell.
It's pretty nuts what he did.
Yeah.
It's so weird to think about moving something from the spiritual to the cognitive. That's insane. Really.
Well, so on small scale, it's not that amazing, right? Presumably that's how spren are created.
I mean, I think all you really need is a perpendicularity. You know what you're doing.
Well, the thing is that... So that's
I mean,
the
in
thing,
general.
right? Yeah. Well, perpendicularities don't let you just go to the spiritual realm.
Well,
right?
I think they do.
Perpendicularities pierce all three
It's
realms.
just no person in their right mind is going to go to the spiritual realm.
No one would want to, but you
shatter
could.
your mind.
Well,
you could do it.
I guess where I'm coming from with that is that the spiritual realm is this realm of ideals, right?
Yeah.
And the shards and, like, what that force is, what we've called the intent of a shard. Not a canonical term. But,
and therefore not capitalized.
That's right. As we absolutely know. But all investiture in the Cosmere was, upon the shattering, was split into these 16 aspects, right? And was keyed to them. It just seems so crazy to me that the place where all things are one, you could just move one of these 16 aspects of the divine out of there to the cognitive realm. Like, it's crazy, right?
Investiture
like, when you
is
think
weird.
about it like that, like, it is super weird.
Well, because, like, you pointed this out to me earlier, it's like,
Yes.
he's not moving one of those 16 aspects into the cognitive realm. He's moving the power into the cognitive realm. And yes, the spiritual realm is the realm of ideals, but it's also a reservoir of power.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, that must have taken a lot of effort for Odium.
Yes, it's 100% a great feat.
Which ties us back into his activities on Cell, and more importantly, his activities later on in the Dromonade system, where he Threnodite system. Threnodite system.
There you go.
Is definitely what I said with my mouth. That
autonomy,
produces
ambition,
words.
same thing. Dromonade, Threnody, same thing.
Dude,
Yeah.
those are not interesting places and worlds. Okay, just
none of those are interesting.
I know Roshar. Just give me Roshar. Okay, that's the other stuff is secondary. Anyway,
But yes,
Threnodite system where ambition was splintered.
mortally wounded, splintered elsewhere, killed elsewhere.
Yes.
Yes.
Didn't ambition die somewhere in the system?
No. Ambition was dealt a mortal blow, but their death happened elsewhere.
Because my assumption had been that they just died in outer space of that system.
Yeah, but that's not the system. If it's in interstellar space, that's not the system.
Well, I said outer space of that system. Like somewhere between the planets.
No, it was
no.
It was elsewhere.
Okay. I am learning so many things today. This is exciting.
Who didn't do research before coming here? Hey,
look, it's not Roshar. I don't care, okay?
Okay, all right.
And so by the time Odium got to ambition and later on to honor, he was more knowledgeable and more experienced in the process of splintering shards and getting rid of shards in general. And so his go-to method was no longer, hey, I'm going to kill the minds and then shove the power into the cognitive realm, which is presumably extremely difficult and also potentially not as permanent as the techniques he developed later on.
And presumably
I think it's more
dangerous.
It's more dangerous and probably more strenuous on his part.
Yeah,
Sure.
I think so. And it could solely just be that it worked on Devotion and Dominion because they wouldn't expect that kind of thing. Whereas once that happens, then maybe the other shards are like, yo, let's not have that part happen. And so he would need to be more crafty on the other split.
Well, because that happened after Devotion and Dominion were
dead.
Yeah, so
I
it's
guess
like,
that's true.
at that point,
I guess that's
the shards can't really do anything to stop it.
Well, okay, that's true.
Plus, he had the benefit with Devotion and Dominion that there was natural friction between those two shards, and they were close to each other in terms of proximity.
So I don't know if the natural friction is what makes the door so dangerous. I think it's just like there's a ton of investiture in a confined space.
You could just have preservation. If you had preservation all shoved in the cognitive, it'd still be real bad for you.
Yeah.
Probably. Like, I don't know if... Yeah.
I don't know if I agree with that, but it's fortunately not the topic of this cast, so we can move on.
Well, the thing is there was a quote that Brandon was complimenting someone about a theory that Odium got Devotion and Dominion to fight each other, and he said Brandon said that's a good theory that he got them to fight against each other. I won't tell you whether it happened or not, but it's a very valid theory. It's fully within his capacity. That's the sort of thing that he does.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we there were some other quotes about whether or not to splinter a shard, it was important for the vessel to be dead. And the quote was basically, well, I mean, you could have shards splinter themselves, so yeah, it's not critical.
Which is,
but I mean, Odium's whole goal is killing the shards, so he would never do that.
Yeah. And I think,
and it's like Brandon was trolling there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like that's not what the questioner was asking.
I think the vessel has to be dead for you to splinter the power.
I think the vessel has to be separated from the power.
Okay, sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's fair.
Which, like, we know
otherwise it might be just
abdicate.
Immensely difficult, right?
Yeah.
It's easier just to kill them.
So what I was trying to get at is that by the time Odium got to Ambition and Honor, he knew or had developed better ways of making sure that the power stays away from vessels. Specifically, breaking the power down into individual small components in the case of Honor, the Spren, or more Spren, I would imagine. So that they all develop their own minds, I assume, and that makes it more difficult for anyone to aggregate all of that power.
Well, that's an inch. Yeah.
I don't think it's a perfect method. There was a wob somewhere in the document I read that basically Brandon said he got a little bit better between Devotion and Dominion through, like, Honor. But I mean, the whole Tanavast cognitive shadow merge with a Stormfather, I don't think Odium wanted that to happen.
Well, yeah.
I still object to that, because like, the Stormfather is, like, his own thing.
It's not really Tanavast's
cognitive shadow. Like,
it's not quite the proper terminology there, but it's like connected with Honor's power, but Tanavast is dead, and I don't think Tanavast, the power just suffused into the Stormfather, right?
Yeah.
I have no problem with Tanavast leaving a cognitive shadow behind that merged with the Rider of Storms. Like, I don't see a problem with that.
Well, it's just not clear that. But, Grace, I totally agree with your point that what is currently happening at the end of Oathbringer with all that is not what Odium wanted.
He doesn't have that many chances to practice it, so
no,
kind of has to sort of keep trying things each time, see what works.
Yes.
Though that might just be... He's gotten a little bit better in that, like, it takes slightly less energy on his part. Like, because the end result might be what he wants it to be. but
I think
method
his new methods are more effective than his methods on Cell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think breaking the power down into individual pieces is far more effective than putting it into cognitive.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, it's still splintered in the cognitive. He's still split into pieces in the cognitive. We know it is splintered.
Yeah.
Like, it is broken into pieces. That is what it is. It's just in the cognitive, whereas these ones aren't, right?
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that.
That's what it says! That's what splintering means. It is broken into pieces. That is what that means. Uh-huh. That's what the words...
Think
if you
the
shatter
process...
something, if you shatter glass, it is in pieces. Right?
Which is sure, okay. But for his purposes, there is a functional difference, I believe, between having the power splintered but all in the same place, and having the power splintered and then be all over the place, developing thousands, if not millions, independent minds.
Okay, that's different. Now, it is actually interesting that there are some quotes that suggest with what happened on Cell, Odium did not, he stuffed it in the cognitive, who didn't want the power to gain sentience. And we also get a quote in Oathbringer, actually, where Downer asks, what he will do. And Odium just says that he's going to kill cultivation, and that he even needs to he needs to not have the Splinters of Honor, like, have minds, essentially. What does he say exactly? Yeah, so he says, in fact, I cannot leave behind the Splinters of Honor as I once thought I could. I can already see that going on wrong. Once you release me, my transformation of this realm will be substantial. So, even what he did with Honor is suboptimal in some sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he really wants to blow everything up to smithereens.
Mm-hmm.
Not everything. The other shards, yes. But I assume he would want something to rule over.
Yeah, he wants to rule something. Yeah.
Plenty of worlds without shards out there.
Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah.
As we have established, his methods are suboptimal.
Yeah.
Sure.
What else do we want to talk about with splintering? Like, we don't know the exact method of attack, really. We've never really known that.
The only time we've seen shardic combat is when Vin went stabby on Ruin.
Well, yeah, that's very different.
Well,
yeah.
It was more huggy, and they just, obliterated each other.
This is a very interesting way to describe that ending of Hero of Ages.
Oh, that's how I've always imagined it. It was just it was her embracing Odium, and just the fact that they're so diametrically opposed, they just both died.
Yeah, which is definitely not what Odium does at all.
Mispronunciation cast.
What was mispronounced?
Ian said she hugged Odium. Not
really?
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, that's
they both have
not
UI
mispronouncing.
And we've been talking about Odium.
Yeah. Brendan has said that the method of splintering is not obvious to the other shards, which is interesting.
That is interesting. And this one is actually one of my favorite quotes. It's about Odium versus Harmony. This one's great. Questioner: does Odium actually present a real threat to Harmony because Brandon? So Harmony is vastly more powerful than Odium. Questioner: yeah. Brandon: Elend was vastly more powerful than Vin. Who would win in a fight? Questioner: Vin. Brandon: okay, there's your answer.
It's a good wob. It's a good wob.
And there's other quotes regarding Harmony, a lot of them. basically that Odium knows about Harmony, but
and Odium is not happy about
no,
Harmony.
but also Odium's very warlike, so along with that idea that he's in some sense is more dangerous because Harmony finds it harder to act.
And Odium knows a lot more about basically everything than Harmony.
Yeah.
Harmony got the letter from Hoyt and was like, huh, who are you? Like,
there's a lot of factors.
Yeah, for sure.
Because Sazed is also a very non-combative person to begin with.
Rayse is definitely combative and is willing and will pony up the energy to make it happen.
Yeah, though something we didn't mention in that opening bit about Hoyd's description of Odium is that Hoyd and Rayse used to be friends.
Yeah.
Used to be being the operative word.
Yeah.
And it's like, hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. Like, there's no more bitter enmity than between people who used to be friends.
Yeah, and Hoyd at the end of Oathbringer was like, if Odium knew I was here, he would just 100% obliterate everything.
That is true.
Smallest chance that he would get to kill me.
That's true. Yeah, that is really funny, actually. I will just do anything to destroy them. Man, I really want to see that backstory.
We already have people shipping Hoyd with Adenalsium. Maybe we should be more careful with this.
That's what I was just thinking. That is like the gay romance, Hoyd and Rayse, all along.
Hoyd has had multiple lovers, namely every single vessel.
We already got that. We already got that 80 Laris ship. So
right,
that is true.
Right,
it'd be more fun if it was Hoyd and Rayse.
Well, why not both?
The hate ship.
Come on,
why not both? Yeah. Look, when you're on the level of a shard, there's not many romantic options.
Look, when you start building a ship this big, you just end up with the Titanic.
Yep. So let's move on and let's talk about what happened. Really, how Honor trapped Odium. I want to talk about that because trapping shards is kind of a pretty monumental thing, as we saw with like the Well of Ascension, and there were lots of details to that, right? With ruin and preservation. So I want to just ask, how did Honor manage to trap Odium in the Rosharan system?
Well, shards are bound by certain rules.
Yes.
Part of that ties into the whole champions thing that we don't totally understand. Yeah.
No.
And I think when you're dealing with the person who is the embodiment of adhering to rules and agreements, that has extra weight.
Yeah. Well, Hoyt even said the shards are very strict here.
Yeah. Well, Odium seemed to think that Dalinar saying he could leave was enough to set him free.
Yeah, that's why when Evgeni said that it's just the fact that Odium invested himself on Roshar, that's what's keeping them there. That's clearly not the case, because Odium needed Dalinar to like free those bonds.
Yeah.
Or at least could use his word to facilitate that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Presumably there are ways other than just getting Dalinar's say-so.
That would certainly be efficient, though, if Dalinar just let him go.
Yeah, but it's important that, like, because intention is a thing in the Cosmere, that Dalinar just casually saying it without realizing what he's saying. Like, it's like, you have to, Odium says, like, you have to be
by intent.
Like,
capital I intent. Oh, that's capital I intent. Intention. Yeah. Yes.
And so Odium and Honor must have had made a deal.
Yes.
Yeah.
So interesting.
Which is so bizarre to me.
It is so bizarre.
It's not the Oath Pact, though I think
It's
the
not
Oath
the
ties
Oath Pact.
into it. The Oath
'Cause-
Pact is between Honor and the Herald specifically.
Mhm.
And it's about the fused, and it's not about Odium, because
Yeah.
even the Stormfather says, as Honor is binding Odium, the Heralds are binding the Herald. The Heralds are binding the Heralds. The Heralds are binding the fused.
Well,
Right.
they're related.
Yeah, they're totally related, but the
Yeah,
Oath Pact
it's just
isn't
like
about
specifically
that
like
person.
Honor. The Heralds are dealing with the fuse. Like
Yeah,
they're-
right, yeah.
But,
yeah.
like, so like the Oath Pact is probably part of some greater pact between Honor and Odium, I would say.
Yeah.
Interesting tangential
It could
thing
be.
I just realized. Honor,
Mhm.
the Shard of Keeping Oath, was one of the first shards to break the original agreement and go with cultivation to Roshar.
Yeah, it is funny that
Yeah.
way, isn't it?
Well,
Shows you
your
that.
wife could get you to do a lot of things. And
she
it probably
really
happened-
wanted things to grow.
Yeah.
Really wanted
Yeah.
things to grow.
And it probably happened early enough where it was easier
Yeah.
for Tanavas to resist the like, oh no, I can't do this.
I agree.
Yeah.
For sure. Rather than like right before he died, where, yeah, clearly.
And then like
Yeah.
by the point it would have become an issue is like he had already made oaths that would require him to remain on Roshar.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
It's all just like that descent into madness of continuing to make more and more oaths, and so you're just kind of locked in this path.
Though
Yeah.
it's interesting that he is the embodiment of oaths and he broke an oath.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How much did that tie into him going insane?
Well, I mean, he went insane because Odium was killing him.
Yes, they can all contribute.
Sure, yeah, that's true. So what could possibly be the agreement that Honor and Odium made?
Honestly, I have no idea. Because
Yeah.
what could Honor possibly offer Odium
Yeah.
that Odium would agree to? Like, he can't go, I'm gonna let you kill me.
Yeah.
Because
Honor would never do that.
one he would probably, well, although the whole sacrifice thing kind of fits with the theme of honor.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Self-sacrifice, that is, martyrdom and so on. But I feel like Odium would just go like, yeah, I'll do that anyway.
But it's also like that can't be it because Honor is dead. Like if the deal was like, hey, you get to kill me, then the deal would be over.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
Odium would be free to leave.
Yeah, it's a super weird situation. There is something with getting Odium to invest himself on Roshar. You're not totally wrong there, Evgeni.
Yeah.
Because there is a quote that Brandon just says, yeah, Odium's plan was never to invest on a place. So he clearly did that here. But like, when would this deal with Honor and Odium have occurred? Like, are we talking post-heralds? Pre-heralds? First Desolation when the humans came from Ashen? Like, all of those matter a lot there, right?
It might have
True.
been something like Odium got himself somewhat stuck there, and then Honor was like, if you agree to stay here permanently, I'll give you more power in this system.
But that power is not Honor's to give.
Well, so that actually reminds me about a rather strange word of Brandon that is this, asked by Ravi, actually, who asked, if Odium were lured to Scadrial, would his physical body turn into a burnable metal? If so, could Harmony create an Odium metal legion of mistings to consume and burn it? And Brandon says, the difficulty here is, again, one of identity. People born on Scadrial have an identity tied to it and its magics. Odium would have to do certain things to make them able to use a magic he fuels. He has done these things on Roshar, so it's not impossible for him to manage it on Scadrial. And that just kind of reminded me of that, Grace. Because maybe that allowed him to do all sorts of weird crap, like make Void Spren or something, like with connected to Roshar, and however that works, or like how void binding works, and all sorts of things like that, because Odium did do those things on Roshar and made it so they can use those Odium-related magics.
Yeah.
My assumption with all of this had been that those specific things that Brandon references there are just, hey, he needs to invest here.
That's
I wonder,
reasonable too, yeah.
I wonder if it has something to do with the Unmade, because it's sort of implied that the Unmade were something before Odium put his investiture into them. They were made true. And then they were unmade.
Yeah.
Dawn Shard.
No, I don't agree with that.
I don't think the Unmade are anywhere near the power level that we are looking at here.
And also, like, are the Unmade so important that Odium would agree to stay on a system?
Probably not.
Probably not.
What could Honor possibly give that would make Odium do this?
I mean, we look at like Janat.
Mm-hmm.
She, as terrifying, as powerful as she was effectively defeated by, you know, a couple of Radiants and a bunch of soldiers.
Yeah.
Well, we all agree that splintering one of the other shards is a strenuous process for Odium, correct?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So what if it's just, hey, if you win in this battle of these minions, the humans and the fused, like, you win, you get to splinter me and cultivation. Or, like, we will submit ourselves to you.
Yeah, but that goes back to that self-sacrifice thing I mentioned, where Honor is not around enough to reinforce that deal anymore.
But cultivation is alive, perhaps.
So
like, if she was involved in the deal,
yeah.
Yeah, if she was a party to the agreement, then it would still be in effect with her alive. And
sure.
it's like,
does
he will.
And with the rules governing shards, does the death even matter? If they've already made an agreement, if they're pretty strict rules, the death might not even matter.
Yeah, the power is still there.
Yeah, that's why he would need Dalinar's permission, because it's still that bit of honor. Even though Tanavest is dead, the bit of honor that still exists is still binding him.
Yes, and Dalinar would have, what's the word? What's the term when, like, somebody's in the hospital and you have, like, you get to decide what
power
to do
of
with
attorney?
Something like that. Pretty much. Dalinar has power of attorney over Honor's corpse.
I feel like there's another word for it, but that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
By the powers vested in me.
Yeah.
By this Nahel bond.
Yes, but so the point I was trying to make is that Odium would be willing to enter that agreement because it would require less power from him.
But it would be a risk.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're essentially saying honor goes to Odium when Odium shows up at some point, and it's like, hey, if you win the Desolations, effectively, you get a free splintering. But so Odium would need to feel like this goes back a little bit to the whole idea of champions, right?
Yeah.
Indirectly.
Yeah.
The shards as opposing sides choose champions, not in the sense that they've been presented to us in the book so far, but like representatives.
Yeah.
They play a game of StarCraft against each other. and they agree that the winner of that game would get the spoils. And so I feel like for Odium to agree to something like this, he would want honor and cultivation to be splintered pretty badly. Like, they would need to be high on his priority list, which I'm not entirely convinced that they are.
Honor, at least, but maybe not cultivation.
And he would also need to feel that a direct battle is not something he can win easily.
Yeah, I guess so, right? Yeah.
Which I kind of buy the second one, right?
Yeah,
because if honor and cultivation were romantically involved, as we know that they were, then it would be a pretty safe bet for Odium to say, yeah, they're probably gonna unite against me.
He can't turn them against each other.
Yeah.
Like,
Most
even if
likely
that
not.
did or did not happen on Cell, you would not be able to get that to work on Rayse.
Yeah.
And for someone who says they are the god of passion, Odium is very logical about what he's done and what he's doing with who he's been going after.
Being passionate doesn't mean you're not capable of rational thought.
I mean, that's true.
We know Odium has been wounded before.
Yeah.
So he would probably want to avoid being wounded in the future. So, and then, like, this deal is an opportunity to potentially splinter these shards without having to directly fight them, which I think would be promising.
We don't know when he was wounded. We don't know whether that was before or after the Oath Pact was established. Because if it was after, then that would not be a thought that would be crossing.
Yes.
I agree.
But, like, I feel like this is probably something that happened before.
Most likely with
like,
one of
when
the
he
other
was, like,
shards that he
directly
splintered.
fighting. But I actually have one more thing. In Odium's mind, I think he would be willing to go along with this because it's just a matter of time until he wins. Like, in the Cycle of Desolations, Honor has to win every single time. Odium only has to win once.
Yeah, there was a quote that was
that's fair.
Basically the Stormfather saying that Odium's lost before many times and he doesn't want to lose again.
Yeah, early on when they talk about champions, like in part 1.
That's in that same vein.
Yeah, that winning the Desolation only buys humanity time, which is the most important thing for humans.
Yeah.
But,
well, the reason why I bring that up is because if Odium has lost, this could definitely be one of those things that he made a risky gambit. Didn't work out super great with whatever he agreed with Honor, right? Like, he thought, oh yeah, no, this is gonna work out super great for me. Mission accomplished, and then it really didn't. And so Odium's more reserved.
Well, the impression I got from that, like, he has lost before is that, like, Desolations have been defeated.
My interpretation was that, I don't know, that he and not something as simple as Desolations. I don't know.
So Ian, in terms of the Odium being hurt before, I found a lob in the dock. It's
Great.
Questioner. So inaudible, Tanavast inaudible. Brandon, inaudible. Yes, that was. In fact, that wasn't intentional.
Adaptation.
Questioner, inaudible. This is the important part. Brandon Sanderson. So Odium inaudible, not as good as he got, but he made it cost. Questioner. Did he sacrifice himself? Brandon. Sky didn't sacrifice himself. I'd say he went out swinging. Questioner. Is Odium just better at this? Brandon Sanderson. I would say yes, inaudible. So, in between all the inaudible stuff, it seems like that implied Sky injured, or at least did not go down easy and possibly injured Odium.
Sure.
Yeah.
You see, yeah. I don't think the Stormfather wouldn't know about that, though. I think he's been like, he's lost things or lost battles of champions or something. But that's why it's harder to get Odium to agree to do that now.
But that could play into why Odium would be more willing to take a deal if, say, like, Sky did injure him.
She's going back to the point I was making.
Yes.
So you guys are going in the direction of, because Odium has been hurt by at least one shard in the past, he is now more cautious in he now tries to avoid direct confrontation with other shards when he can avoid that. And so a battle of attrition, essentially, where he just keeps sending the same souls, the same cognitive shadows of the fused again and again in a wave of desolations, is to him a slow victory, but a victory nonetheless.
Yeah. And
what is time to a shard?
Like
he has as long as he needs. Point.
Sure.
Yeah. And also, with Roshar in particular, I think an attrition battle's more important, because if Odium comes out swinging too much, cultivation will strike back, and that will be bad. So, like, if there's 2 shards on Roshar and Odium's, like, honor, you're on my hit list. I will wreck you. I don't think he can just go out guns a-blazing, right? He's got to be more subtle.
But there has to be some part of the ancient history of Roshar that we don't know about that plays a significant role in this.
Yeah.
Because why would honor enter into this deal?
Yeah. Like, what could honor give to Odium that would have Odium be trapped, and would honor even be willing to give it up? You know?
Yeah, it's like
both of those things don't make sense.
Yeah, it's like, what did honor get out of it? Besides just...
Yeah, right.
Because if honor and cultivation teamed up, like, they could take out Odium, I would think.
Yeah, well...
Probably.
Cultivation's role is always very mysterious, which we'll definitely hear about more.
Yeah, but sure. In terms of raw power, like...
If
she wanted to, she could cut someone.
Yeah.
And she doesn't strike me as a pacifist.
No.
Yeah, she would be down for pruning Odium out of that system.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it is very strange.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's almost the more interesting question here is why would honor enter this agreement?
Yeah, that's true, because it's like, no, you need to get the crap out of Roshar. But maybe honor knew that maybe it was a long gambit for defeating Odium, because he knew that, or
maybe
if this is a chance for me to lock them there.
Yeah.
Or it's
maybe
a chance
what he
to
was
deal
doing
with Odium permanently.
Yeah, maybe what he was doing is he was doing the honorable thing and going, well, I and cultivation here, we can tell him to piss off, and he's gonna piss off. But then he's gonna go after other shards who were not as well defended as we are.
Yeah.
So self-sacrifice, trap him here, hopefully deal with him, give the others time to prepare.
Yeah.
And remember who the other shard in the system is. Cool. The shard of long-term planning.
Yeah.
The canonical name for cultivation.
Yeah, indeed.
I like that.
Yeah, I that seems pretty sensible. What honor would get out of that? What could honor give to Odium to make that work out? I don't know. I feel like that's still one of those things where Odium has lost, made some bad choices, and I feel like Odium's really unhappy with the current situation on things. So I kind of feel like that's one of those. But it's super hard to say when all this occurred. Right. Deep history. Super deep history.
Yeah.
There's history upon history. We thought the Recreants was a big deal. It is a big deal, but then there's like 4 other things that are even bigger deals, in prehistory, right?
It's also practically next door as far as history is concerned.
Yeah.
2,000
2,000
years ago?
nothing.
Yeah, that's not that bad. Good. Well, that was I thought we wouldn't have too much to talk about that, but we had a lot to talk about honor trapping Odium, so that was great. Now what I want to talk about is I want to talk about Odium being referred to as the Broken One. And this is very interesting. It's implied that Odium is the Broken One in the text. In the Way of Kings, chapter 11, epigraph. 3 of 16 ruled, but now the Broken One reigns. And also in the book, there's lots of times where it says Odium reigns, so, you can fit 2 to 2 together. And there's certainly words of Brandon that imply that. It's not explicit. But why would Odium be referred to as the Broken One?
So,
Because he's messed up in the head.
yeah, I was just gonna go ahead and be like, yeah, that's the obvious one. I'm gonna go with it.
Well, there's a little bit more to that, because that epigraph says 3 of 16 ruled, which almost implies that there was some time where Odium, honor, and cultivation were ruling?
In Greater Roshar, in their separate worlds. Yeah, sure.
But like, ruling almost makes it sound like they were together? Like,
Not necessarily.
Or
I
it could just
guess.
mean they had balanced power, which is how
I guess it could just be like, 3 different kingdoms.
Mhm.
They're not necessarily friends. But now one kingdom kicked the butt of others.
And then the Fire Nation attacked.
And then the Fire Nation attacked. There is a quote about asking if Odium had investiture ripped off of him. And Brandon said, has he had investiture ripped off of him? Yes, asterisk. Thanks, Brandon.
Which, like, the Unmade are splinters of Odium.
Like, would that mean that you're the Broken One? I don't know. I don't know if is he messed up in the head, or does he just have the will to do what he thinks needs to be done? Is that messed up in the head?
So Broken One is capitalized, correct, I believe?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Mhm.
That's interesting. So
It is. Yeah, it is interesting, because it's only mentioned that once in the text.
Remember, this is a death rattle, correct?
It is a death rattle, yeah.
So,
Which are very symbolic in nature because
Well, that's true.
the death rattle unmade, it gives you a glimpse into the spiritual, right? That's how
Yeah, right.
visions work, right? And so how you interpret that vision is it can be wild.
It's just, there were lots of things in death rattles that were proper names that are important, and so I feel like a Broken One is one of those things, right?
yeah.
And then you have that one that refers to Kaladin and Shallan coming out of the chasm with the Gemheart, the Chasm Fiend Gemheart.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the death rattle itself, I think, just straight up used masculine pronouns for, like, I think it was like 2 men.
It's like 2 men emerge from the pit with a heart in their hands, and
Terrible.
I know I have seen true glory.
Terrible.
Let's see. How close was I?
I don't know if it's guaranteed to refer to that, but maybe.
It's the chapter where Kaladin and Shallan emerge from the pits is named True Glory.
Oh, okay.
Wasn't
very
it
clear.
for Glory Lit?
No. That's a totally different chapter. That's a totally different chapter.
They come from the pit, 2 dead men, a heart in their hands, and I know that I have seen true glory.
I was pretty close.
Okay, yeah, it was.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
still, proper names
Yeah, I think
are important.
I
Like,
something I just thought of, the opposite of someone
Yes.
being broken? Unity.
mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, that's certainly true.
Yes.
And going off of this, we have not talked at all about what has happened at the end of Oathbringer. At all. Where Dalinar becomes awesome, makes a perpendicularity. As Liff would say, become awesome. And
you
something
could say
with Unity.
He gets lit.
Hey. And there's a part where Odium, after Dalinar says, I am Unity, no, Odium screamed, he stepped forward, no, we killed you, and then in all caps, in that Shardic all caps, we killed you. What are we talking about here?
So
the broken pieces
it could
of
be
Odium.
as simple.
Mm-hmm.
It could be as simple as the royal we. He's full enough of himself that I wouldn't put it past him. It could also be Odium and Fused as his and the Unmade like as his minions. Like this is a team effort, guys. Like
Sure. Although considering that I don't think Odium has ever used the royal we.
Yeah, right.
Anywhere, probably not.
He uses I all the time.
Yeah, he's all about himself, really.
Yeah, that's certainly true.
The other kind of theory that I wanna shoot down is I've seen people. I mean, not necessarily with good evidence. It's just I don't like it. People have thought that Odium might be seeing Adonalsium in there instead of honor, which is what we assume.
Yeah. Oh, I think I've seen that too.
Oh.
And so we killed you is we, the original vessels, shattered you, Adonalsium, essentially.
I can see that logic, but I really don't agree with that.
I mean, if all investiture is assigned to one of the shards, then I don't know that it makes a lot of sense for it to be Adonalsium investiture, because that no longer exists. Right?
Yeah.
I think this we is so weird, and that just had always reminded me of Odium being called the Broken One.
Yeah.
And it's always been really weird to me why he's called the Broken One, and that 3 of 16 ruled, but now the Broken One reigns. But that was one of the 3! What changed? God, it's so weird to me.
Well, it's honor is dead, and cultivation has retreated.
Yeah.
So by result, 1 is left reigning.
But the fact that he is called the Broken One later is odd.
I think the Broken One is one of those things where we don't know enough to accurately guess.
This is going to be foreshadowing for book 8, guys.
But where's the fun in that, Ian?
Like a long con. Yeah. Long con, Broken One, that's just subtle foreshadowing in book 1 for way later. That's going to be really important to break for Odium. But yeah, I guess we don't have enough for it right now.
Not to say, not to put a downer on the whole conversation.
You're not wrong.
Yeah. Because like I've run into this like in the Discord, in the forums, where like there are certain topics where I'm just not comfortable speculating because like we don't know enough.
Not enough information. Yep.
That's true.
I'm with you on that one.
But like I'm happy that there are other people who do feel comfortable speculating about this stuff.
And I mostly wanted to remind people that that's a thing because Broken One mentioned one time. You know, like that's easy to forget.
Sure. Keep that in your heads for the next 20 years.
Hey guys, I'm doing a hard break and editing this in after the fact. I realize that when editing this podcast, it would be over 2 hours long, and that's a little too long. I'd really like to keep things in general between 60 to 90 minutes. We've gone over 90 minutes before, but I think 2 hours is a little too much. So you have to wait till next week, where we continue right where we left off on Odium, and man, it is spicy. Stay tuned for Shardcast, Civil War, Odium versus Passion. My apologies to keep you hanging, and there will be a Who's That Cosmere character next time. In the meantime, you can find us on 17shard.com, 17shard on Facebook, Twitter. YouTube, and Shardcast on SoundCloud. You can also leave us a review on iTunes. Come talk with us about everything Brandon on the forums or Discord. See you next time. Caw. Take that, Grace.